gentlemen, coming to you from the Spit Studios in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, this is the Spit Sports Show. I will tell you guys all about where I've been, why there have been 0 episodes, why I've been a ghost at the end of this. But right now, I just want to talk about some football because I've had all of these pent-up thoughts and pent-up ideas because all I've been doing, to be honest with you, these last 3 weeks have been school assignments and watching football. So I want to start with the team that I feel I can provide the most context and information and entertainment to you guys about, and that's the Detroit Lions, because that's the team I pay the closest amount of attention to. And I have an announcement to make right now. This Lions defense is legit. Legit. What I want to do with the Detroit Lions is I want to start very macro, very general, and then kind of flip it into micro in a little bit, if you'll stick with me. So Lions defense is a legit top 10 unit in the NFL. And the reason why I say that so confidently is because defenses year to year are not anything like offenses year to year, where you kind of know who the good offensive teams are going to be from one year to the next. You know, the Rams are probably going to be decent on offense, although now missing their 2 best receivers, probably not the best example, but, you know, the 49ers, the Chiefs, all of these teams are going to be good on offense. Defensively, on the other hand, though, changes drastically year to year in how your units perform, because it has a lot to do with synergy, chemistry, knowing where other people are going to be, communication, and all of that. For example, the Browns had by far the best and most dominant defense last year. And so far this season, they got cooked by the Giants for 26 points last week, and the Giants are not good. The Browns defense is not the same. The Cowboys defense was unbelievable last year, and they've been cooked for 3 straight weeks. So obviously these defenses change pretty big from year to year, and the Detroit Lions were 27th in total defense last year. And I believe they are a top 10 unit this year. And it starts up front, and I'd be remiss if I didn't spend at least a little bit of time talking about the current defensive player of the year, Aiden Hutchinson. Second in defensive player of the year odds, because TJ Watt's a first ballot Hall of Famer, potentially a top 5 defensive player ever. But he's leading the league right now in sacks, pressures, all of the pass rushing categories that matter. And the thing that's most impressive about Hutchinson to me isn't his counting stats. It isn't even the impact that he makes on the other players on the line. It's just how relentless he is. The guy genuinely has not taken a single play off where I've seen 99% effort. I see 100% every single snap. And the attention that brings, and the availability that gives to DJ Reader and Levi Awuzie, Ozarike, sorry, we had another player named Levi Ozarike, to cause havoc and put pressure on the quarterback. Even a mobile quarterback like Kyler Murray on Sunday, they were able to keep him contained because the edge pressure was so great. You had to double, and then here comes the interior stuff. And by the way, DJ Reader, he was out week 1, but he was one of, if not the biggest single reason the Lions beat the Cardinals on Sunday. His interior pressure and his ability to stuff their run game was flatly Aaron Donald-esque. And I'm not comparing him at all to Aaron Donald. I'm saying that day he was Aaron Donald-esque, because Kyler really had his offense wrecked by the interior pressure of this defensive line. And like I mentioned, Levi Onwuzurike, pronunciation correct, they were huge reasons as to why Arizona just could not get anything going after scoring 42 on the Rams just the week before. And the thing that made this defense at least passable last year, good enough to make it to the NFC Championship game, was their run defense was 4th in the league. Well, this year they've kept that up, and it's 2nd in the league so far. And with that, all you need is your secondary to not be the complete Achilles heel of the team, and they have that now. Now, Terrion Arnold, he's driven me nuts. I've got to be totally honest. He's clearly too handsy. He doesn't understand that the NFL does not call pass interference at all the same way college does. You can't have your eyes on the receiver once the ball's in the air. You have to be playing the ball. He's made a lot of mistakes, but that second half he had against the Arizona Cardinals honestly gave me all the optimism I need to ride him out the rest of the way. Because what he was able to do to Marvin Harrison Jr. in man coverage was simply special. I thought he played fantastic for that second half. When you put him on an island against number 18, you're not expecting good things to happen if you're a Lions fan. But he had pass breakup after pass breakup. Him and Kirby Joseph, I think, are starting to develop some good chemistry on that left side. And to be honest, he has nowhere to go but up because his raw athleticism is obviously there. He's just got to get his technique together. And that's expected for a rookie cornerback. It's not like Quinn Mitchell for the Eagles, who got taken before Terrion as the first corner, is running over people either. He's no Pat Surtain right now. It takes a while for these corners to get their technique, whereas receivers typically step in the league and are instantly dominant. Going up against an instantly dominant receiver, I thought Arnold more than held his ground, and Carlton Davis has just been solid, which is all we need him to be. Um, I don't think he's exactly been the shutdown CB1 that they were expecting, but he's tackled well. He's helped well in the run game. And all you can really do against these top receivers, the Mike Evans he's played against, and Cooper Kupp and all of these, all you can do is hold them to under what they usually do. And has he done that? Yeah. Not very well. He has not been by any means, Jalen Ramsey. But compared to what we had last year with Cam Sutton at cornerback one, it's a world of difference. And in the secondary as well, the Lions quietly have the best safety tandem in football, which no one wants to talk about for some reason. But moving Brian Branch to that strong safety position where he has the ability to roam and just be a playmaker out there, I think has done wonders for this Lions defense, because Brian Branch is one of the most underrated secondary players in the NFL. I think he's one of the best safeties in the world, and Kirby Joseph at free safety just continues to make plays. He already has 2 picks this year. He has a 0 passer rating allowed when targeted, and he's slowly but surely becoming absolutely a top 10 safety, creeping into that top 5. So the defense has been a revelation for me. I've had immense trust every single time they've gone on the field that they were going to at least, make something happen. But I have not been impressed with the Lions offense once during these 3 games. I was impressed with their first half against the Cardinals. Hard not to be when you throw no incompletions, but second half scoring 0 points. And listen, their offensive line and run game are going to keep that offense afloat throughout the entire year. I still think they have the best offensive line in football, as most people do. And obviously, they have the best running back tandem in the league. But when it comes to throwing the football and the explosive Lions offense that we've seen these past 2 years, Jared Goff has flatly not looked like Jared Goff. He's had 2 awful games. I thought he was bad against the Rams. I thought he had maybe the worst game of his career against the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I thought he was good against the Cardinals. I thought he had a pretty prototypical Jared Goff game. But the thing that was so interesting about the first 2 games in particular with Jared Goff, and it somewhat applied to the second half of the third game, was Jared Goff with a clean pocket has been the single deadliest quarterback in the NFL. I can show you the numbers, how many passing yards he attempts, his expected passing average. All of it in a clean pocket is number one, number one, number one. But in the first 2 games with a clean pocket, he had a passing grade under 60 as rated by Pro Football Focus, which is just so unlike him. And I can't quite explain all of the reasons why. I've looked at the tape, obviously, and what I've concluded is he's still missing that wide receiver 3, which was my biggest concern with this Lions roster coming into the year, that hole in the wide receiver 3 position. Because what that does is, with no Josh Reynolds there, who Goff not only played with for a couple years in Detroit, but played with in Los Angeles before that, is it changes your progressions. So what I mean by that is, obviously it's the same plays, same scheme, same offensive coordinator, but in these passing downs, you have read 1, read 2, read 3. And Josh Reynolds is obviously going to be higher up on those progressions than the new wide receiver 3 would be. In our case, Tim Patrick, who's just caught a 9-yard pass, I think he's maybe has 2 catches the entire year, but he's slowly coming into form. I'm not really worried about it. But what I mean is going from 1 to 2 to 3, it's not the same as last year going 1 to 2 to 3. It would go, St. Brown to Gibbs to Reynolds. Now it goes St. Brown to Gibbs to, I don't know, Khalif Raymond, who has a different skill set than Josh Reynolds. So I think that with a clean pocket, his progressions changing is the main reason why Goff hasn't been quite as sharp with his reads or processing. Um, I hope that's the reason why, because that's obviously very fixable and, he can progress throughout the year with that as his main issue. Because I don't see anything wrong with his fundamentals. Obviously, he's the same guy every day personality wise. I have really no concerns about Jared Goff as a quarterback. um, we know what he is, and that's a very, very accurate passer, great ball distributor, and apparently can make a running play every now and then because he iced the game with the Cardinals for it. But that's why I feel just fine about where the Lions are at. I don't feel great about it. I don't feel bad about it. 2-1 is exactly where I was expecting us to be sitting through 3 games, although I thought we'd lose the game to the Rams instead of the game to the Bucks. And overall, the offense has just played its best game. The defense is clearly miles ahead where it was last year. It's hard not to be optimistic as a Lions fan. Now, there were a couple of significant injuries coming out of week 3. Marcus Davenport out for the year. I'll start with that. It's an issue. Having that edge rusher on the other side of Hutchinson, having one-on-one opportunities and being able to win them was obviously an element that the Lions wanted to add, hence why they signed him. But we always kind of knew that this guy was going to be in and out of the lineup. He's dealt with injuries throughout his entire career, and he was out week 2 with this phantom groin injury, and it seems like he's always nicked. Obviously, out for the season sucks, man. I'm really, really sorry to hear it. It seems like it's a tricep issue, elbow issue, something, but obviously, I feel and prayers up for Marcus Davenport, but at the same time, D line, it's not the spot where you want to lose somebody, but if you're the Lions, you do have a lot of depth there. And with Hutchinson commanding double teams, any defensive lineman worth their while should be able to win at least a couple of those one-on-one matchups. And obviously, the interior is still healthy with Reeder and Ozarike. Rag now potentially out for a week. I'm not too concerned about that. If worst case, we move Glasgow to center and bring in one of the backup guards. So that should only be a week to week thing. A lot of fans are freaking out about it, but I really don't think it's all of that big a deal. That guy is tough as nails. He'll be back. And Derek Barnes out for a significant amount of time. Now, this really, really stinks. Obviously, he's a hero in Detroit for that interception he had against Baker Mayfield in the playoffs last year, and he's really started to come into his own as a pass defender. But linebacker is a spot where the Lions are very, very well coached, I think. Anzalone's obviously the starter of that. I think Jack Campbell, the rookie, he's getting better. Malcolm Rodriguez just plays his ass off every snap. He has very, very little natural talent, but he just works. I think they'll be just fine at linebacker. But coming into this game, week 4, this is a low key must win, in my opinion, for the Lions. Not actual must win, like if they lose, their season is over. But mentally, this is a big game. The Lions haven't beaten Seattle since 2012, which, to be honest, is just devastating for me personally, because as a Detroit Lions fan living in Vancouver, everyone here is Seahawks fans. So that stat gets brought up to me every single time it's Seahawks week, to be totally honest with you. We haven't beat them since 2012. It's a problem. These guys also walked into Ford Field last year and beat the Lions in their house. The Lions are also debuting their Motor City Muscle jerseys for the first time. And although that might not mean anything, it means something. You want to open up those jerseys with a big W. Like I said, Seattle 3-0 right now. This is a game where the Lions could really, really seize momentum going into the bye. And it looks like that early bye, which I complained so much about in the offseason, might be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because we're starting to get banged up pretty quick here. But the Lions are in a great spot. I'm just fine with them at 2-1, but low key, big game against the Seattle Seahawks, and I expect them to play big and win that game. Um, I want to transition real quick into Carolina town because I can really relate and empathize with what Carolina Panthers fans are going through. Because from about 2005 to 2021, this was the exact experience I had as a football fan, where it seems like nothing can go right, everything can go wrong, and there's just no happiness for you as a sports watcher. And I totally get it. Um, but what I think the Panthers can do to save this mess of a situation is trade Bryce Young. Now, this is not trading Bryce Young for the sake of trading Bryce Young. Obviously, it's not working in Carolina. He is nowhere near physically talented enough to overcome the clear talent deficiencies on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. He's small. He can't play behind a bad offensive line. He can't really move all that well. He's obviously accurate. He showed that in college. But accuracy doesn't do a whole lot nowadays if it's your number one trait. It's a lot more to do with how physical you are as a quarterback, imposing wise. Like, if you think of all the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now, I don't think I can think of one that's under 6'2". Um, Kyler, obviously, but he's not a top 10 guy. And like, just go through the list. None of them are under 6'2". Anyways, I was thinking about this because obviously the Panthers are going nowhere slowly with Bryce Young. They need to hit the reset button. Where could they deal him to? And then Tua got injured and the stars aligned. And I don't know how this isn't being discussed more. I don't know why this isn't one of the leads on every national talk show in the country. But Bryce Young needs to be traded to the Miami Dolphins, and it needs to be done today. It makes too much sense. Mike McDaniel, what he wants as a quarterback, and I'm taking this purely off the fact that he advocated to re-sign or sign Tua to that big contract extension. He wants an accurate, quick making ball distributor. And if you just look at Tua and Bryce Young, nearly identical builds, identical heights, very, very similar skill sets coming out of college. Both of them Alabama quarterbacks, little undersized, but just stupid accurate, getting the ball into their receivers' hands at the perfect moment so they can make yards after catch. I think Bryce Young coming out of the draft could have been compared to Tua just bluntly as a right-handed Tua Tagovailoa. I think both of them have identical skill sets. And I think Bryce Young going into Miami would be the perfect change of scenery for him. There is nothing, I don't think there would be a single thing better for Bryce Young, not just his football life, but his life in general, from going to from that sad, saggy Carolina weather to Miami, Florida, under an offensive coach who would have his back, believe in him, scheme up plays, teach him the offense, really restart his brain and start to get his confidence back. Because I don't think Bryce Young is a bad football player. I think Bryce Young has his confidence shot. And as a quarterback, gosh, that's such a tough position to be in because you just don't want to make mistakes. You're not even out there playing quarterback anymore. You're out there trying to keep your job. You know what I mean? You're out there trying not to lose instead of trying to win when you don't have confidence as a quarterback. And I think McDaniels could help reinstate that. I also think if you're Carolina and Miami wants to include Tua in this deal, first of all, they won't do it. Second of all, if they want to keep all of that money from Tua, then the Panthers have a kind of a get out of jail free card because you can start Andy Dalton for this year. And if Tua's back and healthy, he could compete for the starting job against whoever you draft the year after, or whoever you draft could sit behind Tua for a year. And I think that would work really well for Carolina. And for the Dolphins, obviously, you're in win now mode. You've spent all of this money on these weapons and upgrading your secondary and defense. Now, I don't think they're good enough to win a Super Bowl, but that's the spot they're in right now. They need a quarterback, and they need someone accurate to distribute this football. And there is no one I think that matches that bill better than Bryce Young. And he just so happens it now Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach, says he's not on the market, but I think Bryce Young wants to be on the market. And I think anyone with a brain could see that he's not the long-term answer there. So I think Bryce Young to the Dolphins makes every bit of sense in the world. I think you could probably get him for a second at this point, maybe even a lower pick, maybe a third, fourth. But anyways, I don't understand how that trade doesn't get made 5 minutes from now. And I want to finish my sports stuff with this. The Trevor Lawrence stuff is fascinating to me because coming out of college, he was of that Andrew Luck, John Elway, as a most recent example, Caleb Williams kind of tier of college athletes where it was just can't miss generational. Whichever team he was going to go to was going to be a perennial playoff team, Super Bowl contender. And I never saw that coming out of Clemson. I saw a really good player. I saw a player who could definitely win games in the league. I thought he was tall, accurate, can move a bit, decent enough arm, but I never saw that it factor, that one separator that would make him a great quarterback in this league. And I made a video on this like a year and a half ago. I'm no Johnny come lately to this Trevor Lawrence skepticism. I've always seen him as the 14th to 12th best quarterback in the league. Above average, very good. Want to have him on your squad, but generational franchise changer, I just never saw it. But now the conversation with Trevor Lawrence has shifted way to the other side where he is a bust. He's the reason the Jags can't win anything. He's lost his last 9 starts. The Jags are a disaster. Okay, let's pump the brakes here. The Jags are a disaster. There's no doubt about it. That defensive personnel outside of Josh Hines-Allen is disastrous. Their secondary is Swiss cheese. I don't understand a bunch of Doug Peterson's play calling. I think they've done a horrendous job with the receiver room, especially when last year I thought they had at least an average receiving core. They've dumped all of those guys. Calvin Ridley gone. I don't know who his top tight end is. There's so much going wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and it's so easy to point to Trevor has the most turnovers since he's entered the league and point to the quarterback as the reason why. I don't think Trevor's the reason why the Jags have been doing poorly whatsoever. I think he is what he always was. And the expectations on him coming into the league are the main reason why he's getting the criticism that he's getting now. If we were to look at Trevor Lawrence as what's a good example of a slightly better version of Baker Mayfield, or like a little worse version of Jordan Love. If we were to see him as that, as an above average quarterback in a dog crap situation, I think that would be an accurate portrayal of what's going on in Jacksonville. But because the Trevor Lawrence talk has to be either he's a top 5 guy with top end talent, or he's 20th best quarterback, overrated bum, when I think it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think he's a franchise changer, but I don't think he's the issue either. And I think this is true on any team he would play on, by the way. If you put Trevor Lawrence on the Cleveland Browns today, the Cleveland Browns have a pretty good roster. I think they would be a fringe playoff team. If you put Trevor Lawrence on, what's another just, I don't know, mid to the Colts. If you put Trevor Lawrence on the Indianapolis Colts right now, I think they'd be a fringe playoff team. I think he's just a slightly above average quarterback in a bad situation. And people looking at this Jacksonville situation as anything other than that, I think are either too high on Trevor or just don't understand that this is a 53-man roster with inept talent at major spots on the Jacksonville roster that Lawrence can overcome. And listen, I think that Lawrence has a lot of upside, and I think that Jacksonville actually has the quarterback head coach combination that they should run with in the future. I'm a bigger Doug Peterson fan than most. I don't think what he's done is his fault in particular. I think he is one of the cheaper owners in the NFL and is flat bad GM. But the Trevor Lawrence conversation needs to stop being a roller coaster, and it's got to start being the merry-go-round rides. Just a little up and down, just a little. Not woo, woo. He's the 14th to 12th best quarterback in the league. Sorry. I know it's not a scorching hot take, but sometimes we just need to look at these issues with common sense instead of our hot take minds. But what I want to finish with is something a little personal. I don't really talk about myself a whole lot on this show, but I feel like I owe it to you guys to tell you where I've been the past few weeks. And to be totally honest with you, it hasn't exactly been where I've been. It's been what I've been doing. So obviously, as soon as September hit, I went back to school full time. It's 8:30 to 2:30, 3:30, about a half-hour drive away. So that takes up a lot of my time. I'm up at about 4:30, get to school for 6:30, have a workout, go to school, get home around 4. And then after that, I'm working 2 jobs. I work at a grocery store once a week, and I also do game direction for a junior A hockey team in the area here. Just to get my foot in the door for sports media, which I'm really enjoying. But on top of that, I also have 2 hockey teams that I play for, a roller hockey team and an ice hockey team. And when you put all of that stuff together, plus the fact that, I do have a family and I do, want to have friends and a social life, and it's just tough to spend. It's tough to not even to spend. I love doing this. Like, there's a reason I'm finding time to do it now. Like, I genuinely love looking into a camera and knowing that there's someone on the other side who actually gives a rat's ass about my opinions on football. It's so much fun. I love every second of it. But being able to find 4 hours in a day to record, research, edit, because I'm a one-man show, guys. I got no one else helping me with this. It's me, myself, and I, and this Apple computer. It's been tough. And it's genuinely made me really, really sad that I haven't been able to post consistently. And I haven't been able to really dive deep into why this NFL season has been one of the lowest scoring in what feels like forever, or why cover 2 is being played so much more than it should, or why outline cover 2 is one of the most ridiculous takes I've ever heard in my life. I still can't believe he said that out loud. But yeah, guys, it's not because I don't love doing this. It's not because I don't miss you guys. It's not because I've fallen out of love with football. It's just because life happens. And a lot of life's been going on right now. But I promise whenever I have free time, I will try my very best to sit in front of this camera for you guys and try to provide the most entertaining and informative show I possibly can. Because I feel like that's a duty of mine. Because I want to be big in this industry. And it takes a lot of effort to do that. And I hope you guys know I'm putting in that effort. I really am. I'm putting it in. It's just not in the medium that you guys all see me at. Anyways, that's all for the personal mumbo jumbo, and that's all for the show today. Thank you all so much for tuning in and watching. I want to know, am I crazy about Trevor Lawrence? Am I crazy about Bryce Young, the Lions? Any of my takes today, please let me know in the comments below. I am small enough as to where I can read all comments and love doing so please drop something down there. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. The Spit Sports Show just hit over 250 subscribers. No big deal. Please leave a like on the video if you enjoyed what you heard. And as always, I will see you in the next. Peace out.